What's
you
the
just
update?
Didn't know what Katie was going to say.
I didn't know, and we didn't want her to say it.
You never know.
We'd rather her not. All right, let's take a look. This is our View Orleans camera looking across the city, Hibernia building, and it is still pretty rough outside, at least looking at some of the downtown buildings. Visibility is okay. We're getting in on some of the more intense rains elsewhere, and I want to try and put a little bit of a positive outlook, as we do have very intense storms that are kind of parked right now over parts of the northern Bayou River parishes, metro area, and moving kind of slowly toward the northeast. Note what is down to our southeast. It is a lack of rain, and in fact, dry air is starting to erode a lot of those clouds. So once we are done with some of these heavier storms, we will begin to see more breaks and maybe kind of a wrapping up of a lot of our rainfall. But we still have to get through what has been some more intense storms, and that little blossoming of those thunderstorms happened right over a good portion of the population. And I'm talking about from Chack Bay down towards Jean Lafitte, Luling to Laplace. We're getting in on some of those heavier storms now into Jefferson Parish, but we're also getting kind of rotating around the center across the metro area from New Orleans East, Belle Chase. These are moving across St. Bernard Parish, and the center of the storm is not too far to the now southeast, or southwest, excuse me, of Thibodaux. Thibodaux may be right on the cusp of seeing some breaks in the rainfall, but even as we're getting the breaks in the rain, there are still some very strong winds. I was kind of looking down, Meg Ferris is in Lafourche and asking from some law enforcement officials, asking when will they start to see some breaks in the wind. Well, what looks to be kind of a big break in the wind, we can switch on our velocities. We use this when we're looking for rotation in storms, but it also shows us what winds are doing in storms. And notice, now these, again, it looks like it is excessive wind. We are looking from the Hammond radar site into a storm that is well elevated. So we probably do have 80 to 90 mile an hour winds well above the surface. Down toward the surface, what these are indicating is that the winds remain very strong. So even though the rain is starting to clear out across much of Lafourche, the winds remain very strong. And again, this is, I understand, misleading, because we're looking at winds well above the surface, probably several thousand feet above the surface, because you have to consider the radar beam looking down this far south, the just normal curvature of the earth, we're looking higher into the storm. So this is not what is occurring down at the surface, but it just indicates what the winds are still very brisk across Lafourche Parish. They have not really subsided at all. Looking at some of the rainfall estimates thus far, where we have got those heavier bands of rain, 4 to 6+ inches of rainfall, starting to see those inching a little bit closer toward JP. So what has been fairly significant rainfall, and we talked about the fact that we would likely see kind of isolated 6 to 8 inches, maybe a little bit more widespread than we would like to see, but certainly very much heavy rainfall, and these are also some of the strongest winds. Notice, we are getting in now, and no big surprise, flash flood warnings being issued across now a good portion, including all of the city, but a good portion of now the South Shore and down toward the coast. It also looks like we do have a new tornado warning for just to the south, or right around Slidell. I'm going to try and go over to our velocities real quick. Looks like right about there, kind of what you see near Eden Isle, so moving in that direction. What looks to be a possible tornado. Again, we're going to see several of these throughout the course of the night and into the early late night hours. I shouldn't even say the early morning hours. The rotation sensor not even really picking up anything, because again, these are just embedded within some very heavy rainfall. So if you're in kind of the Eden Isles area, Slidell toward Lacombe, you want to get to a centrally located room, stay away from the windows, wait for these storms to pass through. Again, these cells are moving at 60+ miles an hour at times. So if there is indeed a very weak tornado, it is going to be moving at a very rapid clip. So just keep that in mind, and we'll likely see more warnings as we continue through the rest of the evening. I don't know if we can actually get the text from the National Weather Service office on this new tornado warning, because this looks like it has just come in, and I do want to kind of emphasize. Let me see if I can. We've got so many. Okay, please. Yeah, Alexa Trishler has kind of the text from the.
7 miles southeast of Slidell. It's moving northwest at 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, so 40. I said 60, but they are moving very, very quickly. So I'm going to go to our reflectivity here. Obviously, where it looks like we've got this, not exactly a couplet, but again, you're not going to see kind of that classic when we talk about severe weather, and we're tracking severe weather. You're not going to see that within these storms. But again, it looks to be right at about here and then moving very quickly. So toward the Eden Isles area, and then continuing along this kind of northwesterly track toward Lacombe. Again, the storm is moving at about 40 miles an hour. Not really seeing anything on the rotation when we indicate that. But again, this is such a broad, large, rotating storm. Sometimes the algorithms and the radar are not able to really detect that. And again, this is not something that has been observed. This is per the National Weather Service radar, where we start to see kind of that little coupling and a little bit of wind shear. Let me see if any shear markers are showing up. No, it doesn't look like that. Okay, I was just looking at that. So still nothing with the rotation. So again, what could be a tornado if, again, you're in the Eden Isles area and then areas to the northwest toward Lacombe, you want to get into that centrally located room, as there could possibly be a tornado on the ground. As we've been mentioning, that we're going to likely see several of these warnings issued throughout the course of the rest of the night tonight and into the late night hours. So just one likely of probably another half dozen or so, and hopefully that's about all we would see. But as we've said, this is very, very common for landfalling storms. Even weak tropical storms, just the broad rotation, just the nature of these storms will lead to the potential for quick little spin-up tornadoes. Again, they don't last for very long, and they tend to be a little bit on the weaker side. And no, we usually don't see warned areas this large, but because of the speed the storm itself is moving, or the potential tornado is moving at 40 miles an hour, it kind of includes a very large area. So a little bit more of an issue on the North Shore right now. South of the lake, though, we've still got more of a widespread, strong, damaging wind threat that will continue. Doesn't look like these storms have been moving very, very rapidly. You kind of watch the overall structure of what is now more of a broad, not even the eye any longer, but the broad circulation around the center of Francine. Notice on radar, we are not really seeing anything on the southern and southwestern, southeastern side of the storm. So that is certainly great news that we will see. Again, we kind of get some like back building over Jean Lafitte because we are still tapping into plenty of moisture, but we can kind of get all that moisture cut off from the increasing dry air. That will start to help us out throughout the course of the night. But we'd also mention that the fact that right after landfall, that wouldn't be the worst of it. That would continue to increase in intensity throughout the night and going into the late night, overnight hours toward midnight. So right now, the worst of the storm from Chack Bay to Jean Lafitte, kind of a large area, and really through the river parishes and up toward JP. If it kind of continues along that path, and this is just looking at the last hour, you'll notice the storms have really not moved a whole lot, that have been sitting kind of over those same areas, which is why we've already seen radar estimates of 6+ inches of rainfall in these areas. So not a whole lot of movement. We like to see this start moving a little bit faster toward the northeast, kind of move it in and out of these other areas. But as of right now, we're just not seeing that movement of those heavier storms. Also, want to highlight again that we do have that potential tornado around the Slidell area. It looks like it was now looking to be maybe around LA 433 and Slidell. Actually, kind of won't be too far from the well. Looks like it'll stay south of 12. So if you're in the Slidell area, this looks to be right around 10, just to the east of 10. Looks like this is probably going to stay to the south of I-12 as it continues along this path. You can kind of see Pontchartrain Drive zooming in here a little bit. There's Howes Beach Road. Then you've got Slidell itself, which is labeled here, and then Oak Harbor Boulevard. Looks like it's right around there. So around Oak Harbor Boulevard and I-10, we've got that potential. And again, these usually are weak. They usually don't do much in the way of extensive damage, but certainly some damage nonetheless with these potential tornadoes, as they are going to be rotating around the entire circulation of Francine, and we'll be watching for this threat as we continue through the rest of the night. Again, the rotation kind of wind shear marker not jumping out on, well, it looks like there was a little bit here at one point, kind of around Highway 90. Let's see if that coincides with any reflectivity into maybe a little bit, but it does look like this is the larger area. So we'll continue to monitor this as we go through the rest of the evening and into tonight. Probably we'll see another handful of those going forward. We'll also have to wait and see once these storms, let me actually kind of put this into motion over the last 3 hours to see what the rains have been doing. This started to approach kind of that Thibodaux, Raceland, Des Allemands corridor. I'm gonna go back in time, kind of started to reach you about 5 o'clock or so, and now we're getting towards 7:30. So we haven't really seen, it's interesting, haven't really seen a lot of movement with this band, what could have been at one time considered more the northeastern part of the eye wall itself. We really have not seen a whole lot of motion with this. We will see what happens within time, but it almost looks like the center just hasn't been moving toward the northeast, and that these storms are kind of still being fed in from that Gulf moisture, which is helping to increase those rainfall rates. And as I mentioned, those areas looking at probably estimates of 6+ inches of rainfall at this point. So this is already a very saturated region, which is why we do have the flash flood warnings. Didn't get quite those estimates on the metro area side, but could be kind of ticking up that way. But flash flood warnings there. Again, with these flash flood warnings being issued, no one should be out and about, but just kind of a heads up where you may want to keep an eye out to see what the water is doing. Just look out the window, look out the front door, see what the water is doing on the streets, and see if hopefully it is not coming up at all. But something that is a little bit more of a concern now with the storm almost not really moving a whole lot, at least based on our reflectivity here. Then you'll notice kind of on the back side of it, this is just a 1 hour imagery. It does look like it almost seems to be moving, but doesn't look like it's moving a whole lot. Really what we're just seeing is kind of the dry air take over on the southern southwestern side of the, I don't even want to call it an eye anymore, but the overall circulation around the storm, rotation around the storm. It almost looks like it's kind of just getting eroded away, and really more of a focus now on the northern end and northeastern corner of the storm that is just continuing to be fed by all of that Gulf moisture with, I mean, basically flash flood warnings being issued from Cocodrie across all of our southern parishes, including the river parishes. So really, as these kind of complex of storms along what had been the northeastern eye wall, we're getting in on some of the heaviest of the rainfall. Let me see what the winds are doing at some of our observing stations, kind of the official observing stations here as the storm continues, or what looks to be almost slowly moving at this point. Sustained at Houma at almost 50 miles an hour. So we're now getting data in Houma. That is interesting. Almost 50 miles an hour, gusting though up to about 60 miles an hour. We're getting the wind gust. Notice sustained winds have been 25, 35 miles an hour in the metro area, but gusting about 50 to 55 miles an hour. So we are certainly getting some higher wind gusts, but sustained wise, we're running below 40 miles an hour, obviously much stronger in Houma. And that was something that I probably should have caught early when we're looking at maybe some of that rainfall moving out of from where Lily Cummings was in Houma. You still had some very strong winds. I guess they weren't far enough removed from that outer eye wall to see the winds immediately settle down, or at least get a little bit lessened as the winds were still howling there. But interesting that we're now getting, we had data there for a while and starting to finally get some data coming in, and very necessary. You'll also notice, kind of looking at the winds and going back to where the storm is, the winds at Houma are out of the southeast and the center of the storm. So the winds at Houma are out of the southeast. So let's go back to our radar here and see what the, make sure I selected the right one. Okay, so the winds are still out of the southeast at Houma, so it really, the storm itself hasn't made a whole lot of progress toward the north. You'd expect them to have gone maybe a little bit lighter with the storm center almost over Houma right now. So those winds are still out of the southeast. So we'll kind of see what the storm path is going to be doing in the near term. Right now, at least based on that, what had been the eastern and northeastern eye wall, not a whole lot of progress, although maybe it looks like now we're starting to get a little bit drier in Thibodaux, little bit of a break now, starting to move toward Raceland, not quite all the way through des Allemands, and some of the heaviest across the river parishes, and depending upon how these build further south towards Jean Lafitte, so lower Jefferson may just kind of ride up through the rest of the parish and affect northern JP as well as the city of New Orleans and all of eastern Orleans Parish, though we're getting some rounds of rain still pushing through St. Bernard, northern Plaquemines, and then moving through eastern New Orleans as well as into St. Tammany Parish. And it is around the Slidell area where we did have that tornado warning.